Hello and welcome to Middlesex Moments, the radio show from Middlesex Community College. I'm Dr. Steve Minkler, the Academic Dean, and your host for these programs. And as always, we come to you from the radio studios and the Center for New Media at the college's main campus at 100 Training Hill Road in Middletown, Connecticut. With me today, I have two folks from the college's Veterinary Technology program. I have Dr. Chris Gargamelli, who's the program coordinator and faculty member. Hi, Chris.
Hi, thanks for having us. We're excited to be here.
And Amy Lawton, who's the program credentialed veterinary technician. Hi, Amy.
Hi, thank you so much for having us.
Now, Chris, tell us what's new in the program. What are some new and exciting things that are happening in the world of vet tech?
So we're very excited about our latest endeavor, which is a canine synthetic working model of a dog. It's an amazing item that through a huge grant that the college obtained, we're going to have this $40,000 piece of equipment come to campus and allow our students to train on what's basically a live dog model. You know, it has a beating heart, it pumps blood, our students can draw blood from it, it can perform procedures such as intubating the dog, and do many of the things that we don't like our students to perform on a live patient until they're proficient on. So this item is going to greatly improve both the level of education that we have for our students and the quality of care for the patients that we work on, because now our students hopefully will be proficient before they work on the live animals that do come in through the clinic we run over at Piper.
Okay, but this is not a real animal or a real cadaver, am I right?
No, it is made out of synthetic collagen fiber, so synthetic plant-based materials. And it looks like a dog, and it has all of the working structures, all of the internal organs. Our students can x-ray it. It's going to be a wonderful addition. And to our knowledge, we are the first technician program in the country using this. It's actually designed for veterinary schools, which kind of has a different need for it, but we're going to adapt it for our veterinary technician curriculum here. So we're excited that we're going to be the first program in the country to use it for veterinary technology, and we are the only school in the entire state of Connecticut that's going to have one of these.
That's incredible. Now, how many times can you poke and prod a synthetic cadaver?
So, according to the company, the minimum times that you can poke each area is about 10 at a bare minimum. Sometimes it lasts longer, but they're very conservative. So we planned for that in this grant, and we have a steady supply of replacement parts coming in so that we should get years of use out of this off of this grant, which is, you know, a federal grant. So we're using Department of Education Perkins funding for this, which is for technical education. So this is where we fall in the program, and we're very excited to have it.
Okay, and Amy, I can imagine that the students you see must really be looking forward to this. This would have been incredible for you to have when you yourself were going to school.
Oh, yes, definitely something like this. I can only imagine the ways that we're going to be able to use it with the students. I've already been spreading the news a little bit to the current students that we have, and everybody's really excited to get it, start working with it, and see, you know, what we can actually learn from this model.
Sure. So if there are synthetic dogs, synthetic animal cadavers, are there also synthetic human cadavers that can be used in human medicine too?
There are. That was actually what was designed first. So this company's original business was the human cadavers. And as you can imagine, the human is a much larger cadaver. So the company, when they came to demo it, actually did demonstrate both the human and the veterinary versions, because we do have our human, you know, radiology technician program, and, you know, some of our basic sciences that would, you know, love to have a human cadaver, but that one is much more cost prohibitive than the veterinary one. While the veterinary one is, you know, just in and of itself a lot of money at $40,000, the human one starts at $80,000. Okay. So maybe someday.
All right. Well, after the break, we'll talk more about the veterinary technician program at Middlesex Community College, and we'll have our Ask the Veterinarian segment with questions from our listeners. Welcome back to Middlesex Moments from Middlesex Community College. I'm Steve Minkler, and I'm here with Dr. Chris Gargamelli, who's the program coordinator for our veterinary technology program, and Amy Lawton, who's the program's credentialed veterinary technician. Amy, tell me, how is enrollment in this program? I hear it's pretty full now.
Yes, we're at capacity right now. So we have about 22 students in our second year program. So they will actually be graduating in May. And then we have the first year class that has 24 students, which is our capacity for the program.
Okay. Now, how do students find out about this program? I know it's pretty well in demand, so how might they learn more about how to get into the program?
So you can go to the website. If you go to our college website, www.mxcc.edu, if you go under academics and go under programs, veterinary technology will be listed right there. And on there has all the basic information about the program, but more importantly, my email and phone number. And I love talking to students about the program. Prospective students, students who may be in another major, people who want to come back to school and go into a second career. We have people from all walks of life in our program, and that's what makes it so great. You get such a diversity of opinions and backgrounds. So, like I said, I love talking about the program, so feel free to email or give me a call.
Okay, and you've also done great outreach to the high schools, including some schools that have agricultural programs who might have students who are currently taking a veterinary type of a course in high school, right?
So we love our partnerships with the VOAG programs in the area. This past year, we had 14 students from Southington High School get 5 Middlesex credits, college credits on a transcript for participating in their high school in our program. This year, we're actually going on Wednesday to formalize our plans this semester with Middletown High School. So they're a great partner. They have a VOAG program. They're right here in Middletown, and those students are going to be getting college credit for their work in their animal science classes. And we're working with a few other ones down the pike. So it's a great partnership in that these are students that already have a natural inclination to work with animals, and vet tech is one of the many careers that they can go into.
Sure, and this gives them a head start in their college career and can save them lots of money by getting the college credit while they're in high school.
Oh, exactly. And our program is, unique and wonderful in that the high school students do not need to pay for these credits. It is grant funded, and we're very lucky that we can just offer these to those students, and they get 5 college credits just for doing the work.
Great. And you were talking about partnerships, and another essential partnership that makes our veterinary technology program work so well is the relationship we have with Piper Olson Veterinary Hospital right here in Middletown. And Amy, you actually have put your feet in both worlds, but having worked at Piper Olson and now for the college. And can you describe how that partnership works to keep this program going and what students get out of it?
Yeah, I think that's one of the really key factors about our program is the collaboration that we have with Piper Olson Veterinary Hospital, which is a cutting edge veterinary facility, and the students see a lot of different patient populations that present to the hospital. We have an emergency department and several specialty hospitals, so the students see a wide variety of patients, work with some really well-trained veterinary technicians and assistants, and do get to meet several of the doctors and work side by side with the doctors as well as they treat some of these patients. So, the relationship we have with Piper is something that really makes our program stand out.
Okay, great. Well, and we're really appreciative as a college for that relationship and keeping that as an essential part of what we do. So now I think we need to transition to our Ask the Veterinarian segment. So we have a veterinarian and a veterinary technician, and we've asked people in the audience to send us questions about general animal care and maybe a few situational things that we like to bounce off you guys. So are you ready?
We are.
We're ready.
All right, well, I'll give the first one to Amy. And actually, this one can come from me because I have a little Shetland sheepdog who is notorious for having bad teeth. And our vet always says we have to brush his teeth. And what's the best way that I can do that without having him nip at my fingers and all that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Dental disease is very common in animals, and it is something that is often overlooked by the pet owner. And so there are several products out on the market these days that can help make it a little bit easier for you to care for your pet's teeth. They certainly do have veterinary products like toothpaste and toothbrushes. So if you're going to look at manually brushing your pet's teeth, I would definitely look into one of those veterinary type products. They tend to be, beef flavored or chicken or fishy flavored, so something really yummy to the pet. And then you want to use like a small adult soft toothbrush. They even make various animal toothbrushes. And you just want to start out by letting them start to taste the toothpaste just on your finger. So you can put a little toothpaste on your finger let them start to lick it off, get accustomed to the taste, and then, work your fingers in the mouth a little bit, very gently, certainly being careful. You don't want to, make them afraid, but you want this to be a very positive experience. So lots of praise and good boys and good girls as you're doing that. And you want to just slowly get them used to having something in their mouth. And it's not like you have to do a lot of manipulation with the toothbrush. Some animals will actually even chew the toothbrush, which makes it really easy for you to get back into the back of the mouth of the animal. And then for some animals that aren't going to tolerate the actual manual brushing, there are specific veterinary dental chews products that you can actually put into the water that might actually help in the long run with preventing some dental disease.
Right. And I would have to imagine you never use human toothpaste with an animal.
Correct. You would never want to use anything human-based to brush the teeth. If you're going to go that route, I would definitely recommend getting a veterinary-approved product.
Okay, great. And Chris, we have a couple of questions that have to do with our taking care of our animal friends as they get older. And we have a couple of questions related to from listeners who have older cats. So one listener wrote that they have a 15-year-old cat who's lost a lot of weight and is eating less. And is that typical for a cat as they get older, or is that something maybe more serious?
So there's a couple of thoughts that go along with that. So my background is in emergency and critical care work. So that critical care side of things allows me to see a lot of geriatric patients. So the way we like to look at this is old age in and of itself is not a disease. People age, animals age, it's just a natural part of life. But with that aging comes the fact that the body doesn't quite work like it used to. And, it's just a fact of life, unfortunately. And this is what I tell people, we can't help it and our animals can't help it. And as much as we want all of our pets to live forever, they do age much more rapidly than people do. So in cats in particular, there are 3 diseases that I think of with old age that are very common. The first is hyperthyroidism. So the thyroid gland sits in the neck, and people have this also, and it controls metabolism. So as cats age, sometimes they develop tumors or cysts on their thyroid, and the gland gets a little out of control. So metabolism speeds up, and their body can't keep up. So they start eating more, and they start actually kind of just getting a little bit more agitated, and they lose weight. They lose lots of weight. When I do a physical exam, they often have a faster heart rate because of metabolism speeding up. So that is one of the things that I always look for first in an older cat that's losing weight. The other is kidney disease. Just like in humans, as humans age, a lot of humans end up needing dialysis and things to support their kidneys. Same things happen in cats. So that one, we do see the weight loss, but we do see a decreased appetite in and sometimes vomiting. And then the third disease is diabetes. It's one that plagues both humans and animals, and as cats age, they do end up oftentimes with the insulin not being produced enough, and we do see diabetes. So that's another one where we see changes in appetite, weight loss. So while old age in and of itself isn't a disease, we do see a higher incidence of these 3 diseases, so definitely worth following up with your regular vet. And all 3 of those are easily diagnosed on blood work. Just simple blood work can diagnose any or all of those 3 diseases.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, another listener also wrote in about having an older cat, which maybe this question could also apply to dogs as well, my guess. The listener writes that I have a cat who is older, and she has developed a small lump on her skin. Her veterinarian thinks it's a cyst and told me not to worry if it dissipates on its own. What factors might cause cysts, and is there anything I can do to prevent them?
So cyst is one of those terms that we use to describe many lumps under the skin. So it's a very generic, broad term. And I agree. If I see it and it pops up all of a sudden, oftentimes we do just take a watch and wait approach, but only for, a week, 2 weeks, maybe a little bit longer. But if it doesn't dissipate, every vet kind of handles things differently. I love to stick needles into cysts because what that does is it allows us to diagnose it. So if I stick a little tiny needle, smaller than they'd even get for a vaccine, into it and draw it back and get a little fluid, then I take a look under the microscope, see what that fluid is, and I can tell, is it benign? Is it something that we have to worry about? Or sometimes they're solid, and we get a couple of those cells from the solid cyst and take a look under the microscope, and again, it allows us to say with certainty, is this something that we need to address and remove surgically, or is this just the benign lump and bump that comes with old age? Because, our animal friends do get lumpy and bumpy as they age. Sometimes they get fat deposits, sometimes they get benign cysts, but sometimes it can be something more. And that's where taking that needle sample, which is called a fine needle aspirate, allows us to diagnose with certainty.
Okay. And Amy, one more about our an older cat question.
Sure.
Is, a listener writes, we have a 14 and a half year old female cat who about once a day carries around a small stuffed animal while hollering at the top of her lungs. Any guesses here?
My parents have a young cat who actually likes to do that, carry around a small stuffed animal, and that's just one of her play type behaviors. So it certainly could be something even at that age where it's just a redirected type of hunting or even play behavior. But certainly as cats approach the 13, 14, 15 years of age, they are considered geriatric. And so you do have to wonder, is it from like a senile type cat, a cat who may be experiencing some level of senility.
Or maybe they're just hard of hearing. They don't know they're hollering at the top of their lungs. Yeah. On that note, I think it's time to take a quick break. You're listening to Middlesex Moments and our Ask the Veterinarian program, and we'll be back shortly. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Middlesex Moments from Middlesex Community College and our Ask the Veterinarian program. I'm here with Dr. Chris Gargamelli and Amy Lawton. And before the break, we had a few questions about older cats. So another typical pet that we might have in our house are dogs, of course. So one listener writes in, I've heard many things about dogs eating grass. That they eat it because they are not feeling well and they want to throw up, or they eat it because they just like to eat it, or they're so hungry that they are going to eat anything. So is there any consistency to why a dog might be eating grass?
There really isn't any conclusive evidence on why some dogs exhibit this behavior. Some of my dogs do it as well, and typically what I find is they go out, they munch on a little bit of grass, and then they come in and then they vomit up that grass. And so I don't know if it's, that's the old wives' tale that they're nauseous and they want to vomit, so they eat the grass that causes them to vomit. I don't really know what the behavior behind that is, but if I'm out there, I just try to eliminate them from doing that because I know it's going to end up coming back up. And so there's a big mess that I have to clean up, and so to avoid that, I will try to discourage it. But we really don't have a lot of evidence on why some dogs do that and why some don't.
How about with cats?
Same thing, yeah. I've heard plenty of people say that their cats are out there eating grass, and again, really no ideas why that is, but some animals do it and some don't.
Well, and speaking of what cats and dogs do eat, Chris, a listener writes in, what should people look for in dog food? And I've noticed a couple of TV commercials recently where the manufacturers have promoted what is exactly in their food. And how do we know what is truly good quality food for our dog and cat friends?
So your question and the way you phrase it kind of hit it right on the nose. So it is one of the most confusing issues in veterinary medicine. And one of the reasons it's so confusing is that dog food companies are marketing. They, just like all those ads, you see so many ads that you don't know what is true and what's not to believe. And on the veterinary side, we get all of those ads also. We get direct marketing to veterinarians that our pet food is the best because of X, Y, and Z. So for me to say this brand is better than that or this ingredient is better than that, that is nearly impossible. What I can say is there's a couple of principles to keep in mind. The first is just like every person's an individual, every animal's an individual. So they have different caloric needs. So I take a look at myself here at the college. I spend a lot of time at my desk preparing lectures and talking to students, things along that line. My caloric needs aren't very high. So I compared to an athlete, I need much less calories in a day. Your average dog or cat that sleeps half the day, they need much less caloric intake than a working dog that's out in the field, like a police dog, things like that, or, a greyhound running a race. They have much higher caloric needs. So you have to keep that in mind first. So if you have kind of the standard lazy house cat or dog, then you probably want to get either a light food or an indoor cat formula, something that meets their caloric needs. And then the other thing to think about is nutrition is key to health. So there's lots of therapeutic diets. We can control a lot of disease processes based on the food. So when we were talking earlier about an older cat with hyperthyroidism, there's actually a food that can manage hyperthyroidism. The kidney disease that we're talking about, there's a specific diet for kidney disease. So, using the diet to help maintain health is important too. So if your animal does have a specific condition, talk to your veterinarian because there may be a specific diet for it. And then the final thing I think about is life stage, meaning, young. There is specific puppy and kitten food because they do have higher protein and caloric need because they're growing. So when we talk to our vet tech students, when we cover the chapters in anatomy and physiology on growth, we talk a lot about the caloric and protein needs in that early stage compared to an adult. And then in the geriatric, in the late stages of life, they have even different nutritional needs. So basing the nutrition on the needs of the individual is probably the best advice I can have. And that's where your veterinarian or your vet tech who's skilled in nutrition can help you work through that.
Okay, and I think, Amy, that would be true too with people wanting to give in to their animals who are begging for human food, little table scraps. I mean, I know there's all sorts of variations based on which species and which breed, but one listener wrote in, what veggies or human food can cats and dogs eat?
Sure. Everybody likes to give in to that sad puppy face, those big brown eyes looking up at you as you're at the dinner table enjoying your dinner. You want to be careful about the amount of table food that you do offer your pets. You really want to keep them on a well-balanced commercial pet food product. Certainly a little bit of fruits and veggies here and there shouldn't be a problem. You want to avoid any real fatty type foods that can cause something like pancreatitis in animals, which can cause some serious vomiting and gastrointestinal upset, which could lead to a very costly hospitalization. So, I always say in moderation, fruits and vegetables. A lot of dogs love carrots. Cats actually like cantaloupe. So there's a few things you can give them here and there in moderation, and that's really what's key about that.
And I would think that human diet is also very salty and many prepared foods, and animals should probably avoid that, I would think.
Yes, especially if the animal has any type of heart disease.
Yeah.
And then the emergency doctor side of me comes in that there are certain ones to avoid. Grapes and raisins are toxic to dogs and cats, so we do want to always avoid those. And there's incredibly long list of different things that are potentially harmful. So going to the ASPCA Animal Poison Control site can list all of those, but the big ones in terms of fruits that we do worry about are the grapes and the raisins.
Okay.
Excellent point, Dr. Gargamelli.
Great. Well, we've been talking a lot about cats and dogs, which many people have in their homes, but I think I've heard of a resurgence of people maintaining their own chickens now. And one listener writes in that since our chickens cut back on their egg production in the winter when there was less daylight, should we use a heat lamp or a light in the coop to spur more eggs?
So this is something that luckily here at Middlesex, we do have an avian veterinarian who comes and works with our students. So kind of went to that resource because they are different than the dogs and cats that I'm used to working on. So with chickens, what we find is that their egg production is sensitive to light exposure. They're seasonal in their, laying their eggs. So what happens is as the daylight shortens, they go longer than 24 hours with laying an egg. So in peak season, you can expect a hen to lay 1 egg per day. As the daylight lessens, they can go about every 36 hours. So for a lot of people with hens, they do like to have the once-a-day eggs, and in commercial production, that's key to the economics of it. So what they recommend doing is the chickens like to have 14 hours of light a day. That triggers the once-a-day egg production. So by setting up artificial light, by having lamps in the hen house, you can make them think, hey, it is our 14 hours of daylight year-round. So that's how commercial operations do it, and people who do want to set up little lights in their hen house, and they can go ahead and get that once-a-day egg by having 14 hours of daylight a day.
Okay. Well, and another chicken question that we got, Chris, is can people catch mites from their chickens, and can a home be infested with mites that came from chickens?
So luckily, mites are very species specific. They don't like to jump from chickens to dogs or cats or to humans, because each species of mite has their host that they like the best. So, for example, the common chicken mite may jump to other birds, but wouldn't jump to dogs, cats, or humans. And the same thing applies to the mites that we see in dog and cats. There's a couple that do jump species, and those are the ones that we really worry about. But the majority of these are all going to be species specific. So especially on the bird one, there are none that jump that species barrier. So I wouldn't worry about them. From a house cleanliness perspective, if you had the chickens living in your house, you might see the mites in your house. But they're not going to jump on people to carry into the house. So that one I think we're okay on.
All right. Well, great. Well, I thank you for helping answer the questions that came in from our listeners. So we thank everybody who wrote in with questions that range from older cats to dogs to chickens. And again, thanks. This has been a really fun part of doing the Middlesex Moments show. And while we wrap up, I guess maybe just again remind our listeners how, if you're interested in the veterinary technology program, how a potential student can find out more.
So going to our website, the college website, www.mxcc.edu. Once you're on the home page, you can go to programs under the academics, and then veterinary technology will be there. My contact information is on there. I'm more than happy to speak to you about the program. And just so you know, we also do have a non-credit veterinary assistant program, and there is a link on our webpage to that also for somebody who may not quite be ready to commit to the 2 years for our program. It's a shorter, weeks program that goes into just the basics of handling and the basics of veterinary assisting and helping in the veterinary team. So we do have that option also here on campus, but our program is a 2-year associate's degree. It does have selective admissions, meaning that beyond applying for the college, we do have a separate application process that you go through once you complete the prerequisite courses. So for many students, it does take 3 years to complete the veterinary technology degree here. But again, we have near 100% job placement, and most of our students are really satisfied with what they do.
Right, and that acceptance takes place in the spring for classes that begin each fall, correct?
Exactly.
Okay. And I know in both cases, the veterinary technology program and the veterinary assistant program, we do in close partnership with Piper Olson Veterinary Hospital here in Middletown, and we thank them for this partnership, which has allowed these programs to grow and flourish. It's fantastic. So again, I want to thank Amy Lawton, who's a credentialed veterinary technician in our veterinary technology program, and Dr. Chris Gargamelli, the program coordinator of VetTech. Thanks so much for being with me here today.
This was fun. Love it. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Sure. And I want to remind the listeners that you can visit us anytime at our main campus in Middletown at 100 Training Hill Road. You can also visit our relocated Meriden Center, which is at Platt High School. We now call it MXCC at Platt, where we have a range of courses that we offer in the late afternoon and early evenings. And you could visit us 24/7 online at mxcc.edu. So for Middlesex Community College, I'm Dr. Steve Minkler, and we'll see you next time.